news headlines. Members of Manipur Progressive Secular Alliance state a blindfolded protest against poll violence and unfair polling in state. Chief Electoral Officer of Manipur orders authority to conduct verification of birth dates of young voters in Herok Assembly constituency. And 3 persons who allegedly fired several rounds at the house in Wabugai constituency arrested. Hello and good evening. Welcome to Mami TV English News Bulletin. I'm KABITA TONGBRAM. Members of Manipur Progressive Secular Alliance, an alliance of 6 political parties led by Congress, have staged a blindfolded protest against rising trend of violence and unfair polling of the 12th Manipur Legislative Assembly election. Scuffle erupted between the police and the protesters as the police tried to foil their protest demonstration. The President of Manipur Pradesh Congress Committee, MPCC, MLA and Locaine, the CPI leader and former Minister Dr. M. Nara, AICC Manipur in charge Bhakta Charan Das and leaders of different parties who are in the alliance took part in the sit-in held at Congress Bhavan complex today. Speaking to media persons, MPCC President and Locaine termed the current situation of the state in view of the state election as extremely unfortunate. The extensive indulgence in violence and misuse of money and muscle power has never happened in the history of the state, he said. Stating that there have been reports of boot capturing and occurrence of violence in several polling stations, Locaine maintained that the members of the alliance staged a blindfolded protest, considering there is no point of keeping the eyes open amidst such unwanted incidents.
Ngasida kuki ki taba adugum lawaching ki polling station khudimakta boot capture tobuna chingba kayama aikoi ki henglep maktada aikoi polling station kunga humdoi aikoi boot capture togibadu repoll tobiyo na maduda leiriba aikoi ki party khudimaki candidate makoi mari mangana election commission da aroda aduga dio da aikoi ai boina CP ra chung ngasi bawpata leiriba election commission su maduga response pirakte aikoi mitta amuba phika kupaga toribasi ngasi da aikoi na sasol ma toba haibasi democracy gi adugum laba ganatantra gi adugum laba adhikar phanglaba aikoi da bharat ki samvidhan gi makha da aikoi election gi process ji dum pangthoga lakhibani aduna ngasi da aikoi gi chana phata bharat ki samvidhan na piriba madugi ona taina bada tokhala abanina aikoi party taruna aikoi gi mit pangbagi adugum badumadi aikoi oidre khalla kan.
Taking part in the protest, a national executive member of CPI and convener of MPSA, Dr. M. Nara, accused the BJP government as anti-democracy, anti-secularism, anti-socialism and anti-people, which does not care for the poor. Terming the ongoing election as low standard, he expressed unhappiness that they are using every trick in the book to win the election. It will be remembered as a dark period in the history of a democratic nation. As such, Nara laid stress on protesting against such offence.
Koina pamiba constitution piriba safeguard puno tu yengoragadi prajana vote piribasi magi pamjaba thaja jaba misakta santi oina madusu apamba natraga mukpa yauna vote khomba nataba free and fair election ohel se election gi law ni whether high law singasi apply to the openly it is violated. Adu orgadi aikoi leiriba koi alliance na masidi prajamiam su khangman bachangi aikoi gi kholau su miam da khangan bachangi election gi free and fair oina toba election adu da democracy gi chang madu ondori neba. You know, democracy si chumno wahi wanate. It's a process. Social development samaj se ki chawkhalak pi manda ono wana tam na puthore pot maneba yas ki tangka ga mane khoi ngasi tawjari ba andalon se people ga khangmin na ba wakhal tamin ba amasung lan na tori bisi kana no bisi khangna na ba hona ba da media gi mateng lawjari baneba.
As part of the protests, they organized a silent march from Congress Bhavan to Kangla Gate. A confrontation broke out when police tried to stop the march. The protesters marched towards the Kangla rally by overpowering the police and formed a human chain. Later, the protest concluded at Congress Bhavan.
Is it the way that police should block us not to come out of our office? One to one. One line.
Chief Electoral Officer CEO of Manipur has issued an ordered verification of dates of birth of all young voters in Hairok Assembly constituency who appeared to be in the vicinity of the age of majority, that is 18 years, by producing two separate documents of proof of date of birth at the polling station on the day of the second phase of poll tomorrow. In the press release issued by the CEO of Manipur, Rajesh Agarwal, High Court of Manipur has directed to undertake verification of dates of birth of all young voters in Hairok AC and to ask for production of two separate documents of proof of date of birth at the polling station on the day of poll. For the verification, separate verification counters will be set up in all polling stations. The Election Commission of India has instructed the District Election Officer of Thawal and Returning Officer of Hairok AC to comply with the order of the High Court. The order also instructed the Election Commission of India to follow the instructions. A division bench of the High Court of Manipur has directed the authority concerned to conduct verification of the birth dates of the young voters in Hairok Assembly constituency. The division bench of Chief Justice Sanjay Kumar and Justice M.B. Muralidharan directed for production of two documents verifying the birth dates of the young voters. The documents could be passport, class 10 certificate, Aadhaar card, election ID, or any document specifying the date and year of birth. The bench further directed the authority concerned to organize mass publicity informing the voters who have attained 18 years of age to produce two documents to proving their age. The authorities must arrange a separate counter for verifying the ages of the voters, but must not prevent the eligible voters from exercising their right to vote, it added. Workers of Janata Dal United candidate of Wabagai Assembly constituency, Mohammad Sikandar, who is in fray in the second phase of the 12th Manipur Assembly legislative election to be held tomorrow, allegedly fired several rounds of gunshots at Hangul Litan Manak last night. Police have arrested 3 persons involved in the firing along with guns. Police reports around 10 to 15 workers of MD Sikandar came to the house of one MD Hazirauddin alias Tomba, 64, son of late MD Jalaluddin of Hangulitan Manak, in two vehicles around 11:30 last night and threatened him with gun. Alarmed by the noise, the neighbors rushed to the house and tried to catch the unknown persons, but they tried to flee by firing several rounds. However, the locals managed to detain 3 persons along with one Baleno and one A-Star car which they came in. Upon getting the information of the incident, a team of commando including OC of Hyanglam Police, SDPO Kapting rushed to the incident site. The 3 detainees have been identified as Muhammad Nurhuda, 27, son of MD Tontem of Santhil Mayalekai, MD Abdul Hamid, 25, son of MD Halaluddin alias Chaubi of Santhil Mayaletka, and MD Wahid Ali, 33, son of MD Habi of Sora Awanglekai. Upon checking the vehicles, the police recovered 3 single-barrel guns, 1 double-barrel gun, 1 live round, 1 bore live round, 1 dragger and 1 sword. An FIR has been registered under Arms Act at Hyanglam Police Station. Cadres of militant group Jomi Revolutionary Army, who are supporters of BJP candidate in Singat Assembly constituency in Churachandpur district, GS Haupu, have allegedly beaten up the chief agent of Kuki People's Alliance, KPA candidate in the same constituency, Zinlun Thang, at Maukot last night. The irate supporters of KPA candidate staged protest today in front of the SB office to Churachandpur, demanding arrest of the culprits. It has been reported that 5 other supporters of the KPA candidate, residents of Swangfu, were also beaten up on Wednesday evening. They are undergoing treatment at the Churchandpur District Hospital. It may be mentioned that the 60/43 Malkot polling station and 60/36 Taikot polling station in Singat SC were among the polling stations where the ECI has ordered re-election in the state tomorrow. Scuffle erupted at Wekong after Wekong police arrested one Congress worker following a poll-related violence at Ningthaulikai under Kakching Kuna Ward No. 6 in Sugno Assembly constituency on the night of March 2. A large number of people stormed Wekong police station last night, demanding the unconditional release of the arrested Congress worker. Preparations are all set for the last phase of the 12th State Legislative Assembly elections tomorrow. Polling officials and police personnel have headed for their respective polling stations. In Jiribam Assembly constituency, polling personnel and security personnel were flagged off from DC office complex Jiribam. District Election Officer Y. Malemngan Bachenglai flagged off a polling team from polling station 38/40 at 9 a.m. Speaking to media persons on the sidelines, DEO of Jiribam Assembly constituency, Y. Malemngan Bachenglai said the flagging off of the polling personnel for 40 polling stations in Jiribam AC kicked off at 9 this morning. He appealed to voters in the constituency to come out and exercise their franchise and also support in ensuring the conduct of peaceful and free and fair election in the constituency.
Jiribam district ki elected sinda poll date namit asida tang mangada matam chana thokpirtuna isa gi voting rights exercise to biu na ai haijari aduga ekoi district ta tang mangada tawgir vote ase peaceful the violence free election ma wela si ani.
SP Jiribam District Ketrimem Ravi Kumar, ADC Jamson Hang Singh, SDO S. Indrazit were among those who attended the flagging off program. In Tangnapol constituency too, polling officials and security personnel have been flagged off for their respective polling stations. The polling parties who have already been stationed in the district have started heading towards their respective polling personnel since the morning. Altogether, 44,914 voters will decide the fate of 6 candidates at 74 polling stations in the constituency. District Election Officer of Thawal District has also flagged off polling personnel and security personnel to their respective polling stations in 10 assembly constituencies in Thawal and Kakching districts. Teams were flagged off from 3 different places, namely DC Thawal Complex, Chawyai Mahaya Secondary School and Basugram Kangabog. Zalairong Civil Organization Z CEO, a conglomerate of Zalairong Baudi, Zalairong Youth Front and Zalairong Students Union, has appealed to the concerned authority to allow the people to vote freely and without any restrictions. In a press release, the organization appealed to the authority to let the people use their wisdom and decide their own choice to vote and choose the right candidate to represent them. Zalairong areas have been witnessing development deficit, economic backwardness and tardy social progress due to disturbances, interference, obstruction and intimidation to voters from different factors during election time in the guise of different issues and agenda, it said. They expressed concern that some people imposed a road blockade in 2 different locations near Tamphung village and Mangamai village area situated along the Maram Pengan Road, causing the voters coming from Senapati and Imphal side to forcibly turn back towards Maram Center. ZCOs expressed its reservations against such unlawful and criminal acts and urged the authority concerned to inquire into the incident and identify the people who are behind the incident and book them immediately as per the law of the land. A day after issuing a public statement to not contest the assembly election, BJP candidate in Tadubi Assembly constituency, Lori has retracted his decision yesterday. In a statement released yesterday, Lori said that the decision to withdraw his candidature was taken under pressure and without proper consent by Mao community leaders. Secretary of Tatibor by 4 BJP Women Committee Tentha Kongbol in Wongjing Tentha Assembly Constituency, Naureng Chawbiaima condemned the life attempt by hurling explosive at her residence after midnight on March 2 and termed the act as inhuman. Addressing the media at her residence yesterday, Chawbiaima said she is an active worker of BJP candidate of the AC MLA Paunam Brajan. However, a large number of women workers of Congress threatened her against supporting BJP. She appealed to the state government to take action against those who are threatening her for supporting the candidate of her choice. Chawbiaima further appealed to safeguard the interests of the people in future.
Nupi sama jani laktana ANC ki candidate ki worker ne haiba sama jani laktana burjen gi karigum ta tawya roi BJP da vote thada baya roi maduda tawra abadi lam hela abadi maduda apapata thokpa nangonda thokpa daita duna sagi wai jagada bani haiba asigumba kaya ki han khangan ba aingonda lei adugi mathakta hokiba by election da aigi yum thong now loina thugai birami.
Among the Indian students stranded in the eastern state of Ukraine, 3 MBBS students from Manipur have drawn the attention of the state government to evacuate them. The 3 stranded students are Singin Hao Kongsai, 24 of NGU Phainom village in Kangpopi district, Zemshan Kumanthem of Hairo, and Sadananda Yumnam of Kanchipur. Appreciating Chief Minister N. Biren for personally reaching out to them, they appeal to the concerned authority to evacuate them as soon as possible. They are MBBS second semester students at SUNY State University. Now let's take a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
LX Sublimation. Pauna Bazaar Imphal, JMG Shopping Complex, first floor. Mafam asida mug printing, cover printing, t-shirt, keychain, photo frame, sublimation ki pot khuding mug wholesale da pangbigani. Items available are mug printing, cover printing, t-shirt, keychain, photo frame. All the mentioned items will be available at wholesale rate in LX Sublimation.
Welcome back. India reported 6,396 new COVID-19 cases with 201 deaths in the last 24 hours. India's total tally of COVID-19 cases rose to 4.29 crore, while the active cases dipped to 69,897, according to the Union Health Ministry data. The death count also climbed to 5.14 lakh with 201 fresh fatalities, the data stated. Meanwhile, the active cases comprise 0.16% of the total infections, while the national COVID-19 recovery rate has further improved to 98.64%, the ministry said. A reduction of 7,255 cases has also been recorded in the active COVID-19 caseload in a span of 24 hours. On the other hand, with 13,450 patients recovered in the last 24 hours, and the cumulative tally of recovered patients reached 4.23 crore. Further, with the administration of more than 24.84 lakh vaccine doses in the last 24 hours, India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has exceeded 178.29 crore. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today chaired a high-level meeting to review the efforts to evacuate Indian nationals, mostly students stranded in Ukraine. The meeting is being attended by Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal, Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, National Security Advisor NSA Ajit Doval, and senior officials. This is the 5th review meeting chaired by the Prime Minister on the ongoing efforts under Operation Ganga for the return of Indians from Ukraine amid military operations by Russia. The entire staff of a Russian television channel resigned live on air after declaring no to war in their final telecast. The decision was taken by the staff of TV Rain after Russian authorities suspended its operations over its coverage of Ukraine war. Natalia Sindieva, one of the channel's founders, said no to war in its last telecast as the employees staged a walkout from the studio. The channel later said in a statement that it has suspended the operation indefinitely After the dramatic exit of the staff, the channel played the Swan Lake ballad video, which was shown on state-run TV channels in Russia when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Now, before we wind up, let's have a quick look at the top stories once again. Members of Manipur Progressive Secular Alliance states blindfolded protests against poll violence and unfair polling in state. Chief Electoral Officer of Manipur orders authority to conduct verification of birth dates of young voters in Hairog Assembly constituency. And 3 persons who allegedly fired several rounds at the house in Wabagai constituency arrested. And that brings us to the end of today's English News Bulletin. Keep watching Mami TV for latest news updates. Thanks for watching.